Bonjour, mes amis. My French is still super awful, so let's stay in English. This is another part of e-Sys for Dummies, and today we will be talking about the reverse engineering. It will be very interesting for everyone. I just can guarantee you, even if you are super expert in the e-Sys, today you'll see couple options you haven't seen ever before. So stay tuned. So, welcome everyone, I am Vladimir and you are on the BMW channel. In today's series, I'll show you how to retrofit the digital cluster into your BMW. But it will be not the just regular retrofit, because that cluster you can see over here, actually it is the cluster from BMW M5 from F90 chassis. I have BMW G30. They're using very similar clusters, but in my BMW I already have a digital cluster. So what is the idea of retrofitting the cluster from the M series into non-M car? Actually, there's a lot of reasons for that, because that cluster, while it's switched off, it looks very similar. But when you'll switch it on, you'll see the huge difference. It just acts completely differently. And believe me, retrofitting that into a regular car is not as straightforward as you might think. Today I'll show you all steps necessary how you can retrofit M cluster into non-M car. Retrofitting the clusters is always divided into two parts. The first part is always virginizing the cluster. Of course, if you are not using the brand new one. Majority buys second-hand from eBay, Amazon or wherever. That's why virginizing will be the step one. I'll be not covering the virginizing of that cluster in following video because I have made several videos about virginizing clusters. See those over there. That cluster will have EEPROM 35128. Working with that is a bit more difficult than with the ones you have seen in the video about virginizing clusters, but it's still doable. Just a bit another tools are needed. The process will be exactly the same. Desoldering the EEPROM, erasing the EEPROM, putting the EEPROM back, and this is the called virginizing process. The virginization was done by one of my students during the advanced BMW technician course I was running that summer. The next courses will be next summer, not earlier. Sorry, but I cannot make those as often as you would like, but still, so next summer, 2025 will be the next courses. If virginization of the cluster is done, we can proceed to step 2. One more super important remark. Virginization of the cluster can be done on bench only. It cannot be done purely remotely, because you need to have remote direct access to the EEPROM of the ECU you're working with. That's why on the bench only. What could be the difficulties of coding M cluster to non-M car? If that cluster is virginized, and it is virginized, in today's video I'll put that into my car and we'll code it to the car. If I'll code the cluster to the default settings, what do I mean by default settings? See my previous e-Sys for Dummies manuals. Over there I'm talking everything about how to code to default settings. That cluster will become and act as a regular digital cluster, as non-M cluster. That's why there is no point to code that cluster with factory settings of my car. It will just give nothing. If I'll code that cluster to the M specifics, because my car is not M car, and M cars have a lot of different other ECUs and components installed into the vehicles, that cluster will give me a lot of different errors, because my car is missing another ECUs that are present on actual M cars. That's why we'll need to make the hybrid of M codings and non-M codings in order to that M cluster work in my non-M BMW. That's why that series is called reverse engineering. I'll show you one very quick way how to know the proper parameters. If you have seen my previous e-Sys for Dummies series, you are aware that going inside the ECU allows you to change a lot of different parameters, those called FDL parameters. Like tons of those are present inside the ECU. Of course, if you'll start to play with every one of those one by one, you will achieve the proper result, but it will take you ages. What could be the quicker way to know all the proper parameters? The quickest way would be reverse engineering. If you have access to the car where that kind of retrofit was already done and it was working properly, you can peek into those parameters and basically make copy-paste of those and apply it to your vehicle. It is not as straightforward as it might sound, but it is kind of simple. Current video is possible only thanks to one of my subscribers, Timur, thank you, because he had the access to one of the cars where that retrofit was done correctly. Everything was working fine. He just made the copy of the coding file from that car and sent it to me. And I will be making today with you reverse engineering to know what parameters have to be changed. The way how it should be done. We have the file, the coding file from the car that is non-M car. It was already retrofitted with M cluster absolutely properly. So those are the values that should be applied. We just cannot copy all those values and apply to our vehicle because it will just not work in that way. Also, I have my car where is also the cluster present. Those parameters are a bit different. We have to compare two different files and find those changes and modify those changes a bit to meet my car needs. Why? Because M cars are gasoline cars. The car I have the file from, it's also gasoline, but it's not M car. And my car is actually diesel one. So we have three different values that could be matched. And let's fire up the e-Sys. I'll show you the quickest way how to compare those and how to find the correct parameters. So gentlemen and ladies, have a look to my screen. Over here I have a folder called M Cluster Retrofit. Inside it I have two different folders. The one that is with the B57, it is the original coding file from my diesel G30. And over here we have non-M car that was retrofitted with the M cluster, and you can see it is the gasoline, the B58 engine. So the whole idea will be comparing to those files and finding the needed parameters. To make it the most efficient way, we will use launcher called e-Sys Ultra. It's also possible to do with other launchers as well, but with that one it will be like the super quick way. You will see in a second. I have fired up our launcher. Over here you can see the compare NCD tool. It is the special tool that is allowed by launcher. The thing we need to do, we have to load both coding files. On the left I'll always load the original coding file from my car, and on the right I'll load the file that was sent to me by one of my subscribers. Opening the same folder, so going inside coding files of my car, NCDs, selecting dcombi2, and here is the coding file. And now we need to compare that coding file to the coding file from our retrofit car. So you can see it is non-M car retrofitted with M cluster. And press compare. As you can see, the comparison has been made, and you can see that in my cluster some parameters are not active and they have to be switched to active, and vice versa. Some parameters are active, they have to be switched to non-active. I guess you got the way. How should we apply all those? And basically what we'll need to do, change every single parameter. Basically going inside the ECU, inside my cluster, when a bit later we'll go inside my car, I have to open every single parameter and modify it. But it will take ages. There are two approaches how you can make the job. You can work hard or you can work smart. Let's work smart. I'll show you how you can apply all those parameters in a second without modifying every single one. Because modifying every single one will just take ages, and actually the good result is still not guaranteed. That's why the thing you need to do, select all the parameters. We are pressing Ctrl A, and with the right click you can see we will import those codings into the cheat sheet maker, and then automatically apply all the changes when we will be in the car. So let's send the codings of NCD2. Remember, on the left, or NCD1, we had the original from my car, and NCD2 on the right, we had the parameters from the converted car. So this is the name of the author. Let's make it BIMDoc and new code. Actually, a new code are not the good parameters. We have to name it so we'll understand what modifications will be done. Those will be the M cluster to non-M BMW and gasoline, and let's make it step 1. You'll understand in a second why step 1. Press enter and pressing the export. Yes, those are saved on my computer. The next thing, remember I told you that modification was done on the car with gasoline engine. I have the diesel engine. We need to find the parameters so those codings will be applicable to my car. Over here, in the search, type diesel. Obviously, those parameters are responsible for those options that gasoline or diesel. The same thing, Ctrl A to select everything. And now, actually, we need to send NCD1 to cheat sheet maker. Why 1? Because those parameters are original from my cluster, because I want still it to be diesel. Will it be 100% correct method or no? I don't know, because I haven't done that retrofit yet. But while we will be in the car, we will know that. If no, we will have to manually play with all those parameters that are diesel, gasoline related, just turning them on and off one by one to achieve the best result. But actually, you can see there is not much of those parameters. That's why it's still doable. But first, let's send to NCD1 because I need the original diesel parameters. And over here will be M cluster to non-M BMW and diesel and step 2. Pressing enter, export, yes. Okay. We can close it. That part of the job, we can call it was working smart. How to use those? It's kind of straightforward. In FDL editor, you open the coding file from the cluster. Over here, top right, you press reload and you will see different parameters. Author, let's select only the codings by BIMDoc. So if I select step 1, we can also review the parameters. You will see that all those parameters will be applied to my cluster. And basically the only thing I need to do, press apply, and those will be changed into my cluster. If I need to convert from gasoline to diesel, I select that one. You can see review, only those parameters. I press apply, code, and everything should work fine. Will it or not? We'll see in a second. We have done all the preparation that can be done at home without connecting to the car to save up some time, because the time is the most valuable resource. Now we'll go to the car. I will change the cluster. I will just fast forward that process. It's kind of easy. You can find a lot of manuals on YouTube how to disassemble and assemble the cluster. And I will turn on recording again of my laptop when we'll start coding the cluster. Now let's go downstairs, fit that guy into my BMW and check if my theory about reverse engineering with the help of e-Sys Ultra works or no. Let's go. Paris is not the most car-friendly city. A lot of the parkings are underground parkings. As you can see, my part is parked over here. The lighting environments here is not the best one. Going outside, yes, it's possible, but finding the good spot where I can make the rest of the video, and the parking should be not too costly and so on, it's the whole nightmare. So guys, pardon for the lighting environments if the picture quality will be not as good as I used to, but I'll do my best. So let's go to the car and continue with our topic. Next process is removing the original cluster and placing M cluster instead of that. I'll fast forward that process to save up a bit time. So now removing the old cluster and putting in the new one. One second. Guys, it's so inconvenient to work not in own garage. But what you can do, so basically changing the cluster is just plug and play. Space is the only limitation, but before closing up everything completely, we'll just connect it, make sure it still works. Because as usually, all the parts from the scrapyard, you never can guarantee they will work. Oh, boom! I can already see it working, at least a bit. Perfect. At the moment, you can already see the cluster is working. Let's start the engine. So you have seen the tachometer part was working. Yes, it's working again. Because the cluster is not coded to my vehicle, it cannot work properly, but at least it's going up. Yes, it's working somehow. Let's see what will happen after we will make the coding. Remember, I told the cluster was virginized by my students, and you can actually see it's working. Let's shuffle the mileage. Over here, you can see the mileage is not correct because it is way lower than the mileage in my car, and that's exactly what I told them to do. Just only erase the VIN code and not the mileage. The mileage will be taken from my vehicle after the coding process. You will see that in a second. We have a lot of errors in the car at the moment. Let's start up the e-Sys and let's start coding the car. As you can see, the lights in the garage are switching off. It's absolutely okay. A lot of errors in the car, but the look of the cluster, it is just gorgeous. Establishing the connection. The proper sequence is explained in e-Sys for Dummies Part 1. And also all the settings of your e-Sys, how they should be done correctly. We have the connection to the vehicle, going to the coding tab, reading out vehicle order, the ECUs. So we can see the D-combi. You can see the coding file is corrupted. It's not present there. In one of the videos, I guess e-Sys for Dummies Part 5, I was explaining you how to work with retrofitted ECUs. This is one more example how to work with those. The minimum thing we need to do to code it to the vehicle. It will be not as beautiful as M-style, but still we have to do it. I'm explaining everything that I'm doing at the moment in e-Sys for Dummies Part 5, so see that one. Making the coding. During the coding process, the cluster will take the VIN code from the vehicle order, and also it will take the mileage from the car itself. The coding has finished. That's good. Let's see how it works. So you can see the cluster. Let's start the car. The cluster again is actually, that part is half working. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. We'll see, is it the problem of the cluster or whatever else. It might be the problem of the cluster. It should start soon. Yes, it's working now. You can see the mileage now. The mileage now is taken from my vehicle. There is still a red dot, but it's not a problem. So engine RPM is working now. That's good. Let's turn off the vehicle and turn it on again. So, small update. Remember, we had also a red dot. Now there is no red dot present. The things I have done, I have just closed the car for 1 minute to turn off everything and turn it on again. Because the cluster was virginized properly, so my students, whoever was doing that job, I know you're watching that video. Job well done. Cluster is working perfectly. Soldering is done well. No problems over there. Because if any error is done during the virginizing, the cluster will not work. So virginizing is still an important part. Yes, just allowing the cluster to sleep 1 minute is enough. It will obtain all the mileage and everything from the car after the coding. Now the cluster is coded to that car, but it's not working. It's working okay. It is good for majority, but not for us. Let's apply those good settings we have done at home, and we will see how the cluster will change. Pressing read ECU one more time. Yes, the coding file is present, everything is brilliant. And now, gentlemen, is the time when we start working smart, not hard. Going inside the ECU, and the thing I need to do is apply those preparations we have made at home to that vehicle. Not changing every single coding parameter by hand, it will take ages. Let's work smart. Let's work smart. So we need to reload all the coding files, filter it by author. Let's see what do we have there. Yes, those are all the changes we need to apply to that cluster. And pressing apply. Okay, it will take some time because we are changing like a lot of codings. I haven't counted those, but definitely more than 30. So it will take some time. Just wait for the e-Sys. In that window over here, it will show what was applied and what was not applied. Let's see those. So you can see the changes haven't been applied. Everything that's blue, it's okay. We don't see any other colors. Yes, correct, perfect. Now saving, going back and pressing code NCD. So now those settings will be coded into the cluster and we'll see how the cluster will change. It's making a restart. I can see 0 errors. That's very good. Now let's go to cluster and see what do we see there. Oh my god, the head-up display is beautiful now. It is beautiful now. Have a look. Now the cluster looks like that. To make it more spectacular, I'll show 2 pictures. The one I have made before, I'll zoom out a bit. In that way, yes. Let it be in that way, yeah, perfect. You can see 2 clusters. The upper one is the one that's at the moment in the car coded to the M settings, and also the another one down there. So you can already see the difference through the coding. If I'm pressing the drive and making the selectors, you can see I'm changing the gears. So also going back, yes, everything works perfectly fine. That's perfect. That's good. And one thing about the head-up display, actually I told you it is Georgios because at the beginning I have seen the RPM over there, but now I don't see the RPM anymore. I guess it could be solvable via the coding. Let's play a bit more. Now let's try and add those diesel values over there. And let's see, will it bring any changes or no. At the moment, the good thing is that there is 0 errors in the car at the moment. It is very good. So beginning is the same, and now the step number 2. Yes, should be okay. Apply. We will see, does it give anything else or no? I have no idea because I'm trying that for the first time together with you guys. And let's press code density. We will see how that will affect in the end, because I have the diesel car. It will be nice to see the RPMs according to the diesel, if it's possible at all on that cluster. The coding process begins, the cluster restarts, shows some warnings, yes, 0 errors, should be okay. Yes, let's see to the cluster. So let's start the car. The changes I can see, can you see the RPM with coding to the diesel? Actually, it is not correct. Before that, it was showing correct because my RPM with cool engine cannot be almost 1000. Yes, it should be around like 650-ish. At the moment, there is still no errors. The problem is also because that coding was taken from the Russian car, the cluster, everything is in cluster, yes, is in English, but the language is set to the Russian, and actually I cannot change the settings in the iDrive. I'm going to language, I'm trying to select the English UK, and as you can see, it still remains in Russian. So it has to be manually changed in the cluster via the coding. So as we have seen, adding those diesel values to the car, they set something off. So I'll just apply all the original codings the same as for the gasoline. Then I'll drive a bit to see if it's working good for me or no. In addition, the thing I'm definitely going to change is the language thing. So let's go inside there. Let's go inside there. Things we need to do. Again, load and apply step 1 again, to apply all the same settings as we have done in the beginning. So step 2 was not required, but guys, you can see I'm trying together with you. So everything was applied. The only thing, yes, the language, let's set it to English, Spanish, US, UK, yes. Actually, let's make it UK, because I guess the thing is that the language in the cluster have to match the language in the head unit. Otherwise, it will be impossible to change those. Yes, turning on diagnostic mode and pressing the code again. So the cluster and the language of the system should turn English again, and we'll see how it works. We will see how it works. 0 errors, coding done. Let's see the car. So we can see the engine is running again. The RPM is correct. The check engine sign is on. Yes, it's one small problem with the sphere flaps. I'll fix it later. And with the language thing, you can see, so it says Russian, English UK. Now it's English UK. Yes, everything is in English. Perfect. Weather today in Paris. Yes, it's still in Russian, but it will be updated to the English soon. Notifications, 0 notification. Everything is working. Yes, that's good. RPM is working, no errors. The gears, yes, they do work. Yeah, perfect. Parking, everything, yes, everything works super good. With the head-up display, yes, still no changes. I'll try to modify it. Have a look to my head-up display. So I can see actually the RPM over there now. So yeah, it's nice. It's super nice. And actually the way how I actually achieved that, it was like super easy. So in the settings, I'll go back. So you go to the iDrive settings, displays, head-up display. Over there, I have adjusted a bit how the head-up display is positioned, and also the rotation. Over here, you can see reduce, standard, individual, and so on. So if you put the standard, it will be as I shown you, so reduced or individual. Before it was set to individual, that's why not everything was shown there. If you put the standard, it will be the M standard, so play with those. I am satisfied with the result. I'll assemble everything back together and then we'll make small conclusion. Intermediate results, everything is put back together, everything works as it should, gear shifting, everything is working, head-up display is working, it's very good result. And one more bonus actually, that cluster, my previous one, the full digital, it is now just a leftover, so if anybody interested in that, you can purchase that without any problems. Of course I can virginize it for you also before the shipping, so you can just plug and play with that. With retrofitting the clusters, important thing to know that actually there are two types of clusters, with head-up display and without the head-up display. My cluster is with head-up display, so if your vehicle is not equipped with head-up display, you can still use that cluster. It will be just working without the head-up. But if your vehicle does have the head-up display and you purchase the cluster without that support, you will lose that functionality. That's why it's important to know that. So gentlemen, as I promised you, I'm making the test ride with my new cluster. Actually, I love it. It looks just so gorgeous. You'll see in a second. The head-up display is working, everything is working. Actually, the only thing that's actually not working is the adaptive cruise controller here. Actually, the cruise control, it works. I can see like the car is following the traffic and so on, but I cannot see it at my cluster at the moment. I guess that's the problem of the coding. We'll fix it a bit later. It's not the topic about that video, but still, it's working. Some more modifications I needed, but overall, the gears are shifting, everything works as it expected, so very good, highly recommended. At the moment, you can see the cluster and also the head-up display. You can see even the gears over there. At the moment, it is the standard layout. You can also, for the head-up display, choose another projection. For example, you can choose the reduced one. So over here you can see like it's just the minimum information, and also you can set up to the individual. Those changes can be applied from your navigation unit itself. It actually changes a lot how it works. So let's switch back to standard. So in the standard you can see the speed and even the gears are shifting. I'll accelerate a bit so you can see like the gears going up, down and so on. So yeah, it looks just amazing. The verdict will be I'll definitely keep that cluster for myself. Highly recommended, like super nice. Of course, some more modifications are needed. As I told you, the cruise control has to be modified. So the way I'm going to do that will be of course off topic. I'll be not wasting your time for that. But the thing I need to do is actually compare the actual coding files from that cluster to my one and to the original M5s to see how the adaptive cruise control should be edited in the cluster so it will work properly. It's 100% doable. I'll show you the result later. As you have seen, it was a great success, and now I'm enjoying the glorious BMW M5 cluster in my diesel-powered BMW. The head-up display looks just amazing. The cluster itself looks amazing. I really love it. It's very gorgeous, so I can recommend it to you, of course. If you do like those kind of videos, write your thoughts in the comments. Of course, hit like, subscribe if you still haven't subscribed, and see you next time. Bye.